In the year 2100, Earth's fate had become inextricably entwined with the hope of a new beginning. After decades of turmoil and the relentless pressures of overpopulation and dwindling resources, the brightest minds and bravest souls united under one goal: to secure humanity's future among the stars. The destination was none other than Kepler 452b, a world often heralded as Earth's long-lost twin. Dubbed the New Earth, Kepler 452b promised not only a second chance for human civilization but a chance to rebuild everything that had once been taken for granted. The mission was to be carried out by the state-of-the-art interstellar vessel Aurora Ascendant. With its revolutionary fusion propulsion system, the ship would journey at 5% the speed of light, a pace that allowed for a multi-generational voyage, but one that kept hope alive for the descendants of Earth. From the moment the Aurora Ascendant left its cradle in Earth's orbit, every moment on board was filled with equal parts anticipation, scientific rigor, and the quiet determination that characterized humanity's unyielding spirit. At precisely on a crisp autumn morning, the Aurora Ascendant detached from the orbital station above a rejuvenated Earth. The vessel's nuclear fusion drive roared to life, its plasma exhaust blazing with an ethereal luminescence. Over 2,000 souls had volunteered for this journey: scientists, engineers, educators, and families eager to carve a future on a new world. The ship's command deck displayed a digital countdown as the crew initiated the first phase of acceleration. In the first 20 days, the Aurora Ascendant steadily increased its velocity under a sustained 1g acceleration. This constant pull was not only a measure for efficient travel, but also an ingenious design choice. By mimicking Earth's gravitational force through steady thrust, the human body could adapt without suffering the debilitating effects of long-term weightlessness. Once the vessel reached its cruising speed, 5% the speed of light, the engines would temporarily cease firing, allowing the ship to coast through the void of interstellar space. During the acceleration phase, every module of the Aurora Ascendant hummed with activity. Engineers monitored the reactor core, an advanced fusion chamber that drew on deuterium and helium-3 harvested from lunar mining operations. Its magnetic confinement field shimmered as they maintained the delicate balance of plasma at temperatures hotter than the core of the sun. Meanwhile, the artificial gravity generators, integrated with the ship's rotational habitat ring, prepped for the moment when spin would become the primary source of gravity. The ship's design was both elegant and practical. The outer ring, spanning a diameter of 800 meters, was engineered to rotate at 2.1 revolutions per minute. This rotation produced an outward centrifugal force that closely approximated 1g. Inside, the habitat module was a marvel of modern engineering: multi-level corridors, vertical gardens powered by aeroponic systems, and large, panoramic windows that offered a view of the cosmos, a constant reminder of the precious void they were traversing. In these early days, the passengers marveled at the transformation. They left behind the familiar blue planet and entered a realm where time itself would bend. Every day, children learned of Earth's rich history while engineers studied the ship's systems. Every individual understood that they were the stewards of humanity's destiny. Once the acceleration phase ended, the Aurora Ascendant shifted into cruise mode. The fusion engines went dark, and the ship settled into a steady glide through interstellar space. The trajectory was meticulously calculated, a course that would lead the vessel through the sparsely populated regions beyond the Kuiper Belt and into a vast interstellar void where cosmic radiation and rogue meteoroids lurked. To ensure safe passage, advanced tracking sensors and autonomous defense systems were continuously active. Micrometeoroids, tiny but deadly remnants of cosmic debris, were deflected by strategically placed laser arrays. The vessel's hull, a composite of carbon nanotube layers and a blade of ceramics, offered formidable protection. Each component of the ship was designed to endure not only the passage of time, but the relentless hazards of space. As the Aurora Ascendant moved farther from the gravitational pull of the sun, its navigational systems locked onto the distant beacon of Kepler 452b. Unlike its nearest neighbor, Proxima Centauri, Kepler 452b lay nestled in the habitable zone of a sun-like star. Its orbit had long been a subject of speculation and wonder, until now. The mission planners had chosen it as the new home for humanity, a planet where conditions were favorable for life as we know it, albeit with subtle differences that would eventually shape a new human evolution. The ship was not merely a vessel, it was a self-contained biosphere, a floating city in the interstellar dark. Inside, a strict yet dynamic schedule maintained the ship's operations. Mornings began with a ceremonial moment of remembrance for Earth, a symbolic gesture as a new day dawned in the void. After the ceremony, families gathered in communal areas where interactive educational programs kept the younger generation informed about Earth's legacy and the scientific challenges ahead. Each living quarter was modular and customizable, designed to accommodate the evolving needs of a multi-generational society. The habitat ring was divided into sectors, residential zones, research labs, agricultural modules, and recreation areas. The latter were fitted with advanced virtual reality theaters, allowing passengers to simulate Earth environments, from ancient forests to sprawling metropolises, thus keeping the memories of home alive even as they journeyed further into the unknown. In the medical bays, robotic surgeons and human doctors worked side by side. With a keen focus on longevity and genetic diversity, the onboard biologists tracked the evolution of every microbe and bacterium within the ship's closed ecological system. These organisms were as critical to the mission as the human passengers themselves. Research teams monitored bacterial populations to ensure that symbiotic relationships remained balanced, preventing any harmful mutations that could threaten the ship's delicate biosphere. Population management was another critical component of the voyage. At launch, the Aurora Ascendant carried 2,000 pioneers. Over the decades, a series of strict reproductive guidelines were implemented to maintain genetic diversity while ensuring a stable population. Each family unit was allowed a fixed number of offspring, with reproductive timing staggered to avoid age clustering. Genetic counselors routinely analyzed the genomes of prospective parents to minimize the risk of hereditary diseases and to foster a robust, adaptable community for the new world. Within the first 10 years of the journey, the ship's inhabitants had already adapted to life in the interstellar vessel. The initial burst of acceleration gave way to a serene, albeit measured, life of routine and wonder. The ship's command deck, situated at the core of the vessel, oversaw every operation, from propulsion adjustments to intergenerational education programs. During this period, the fusion engines were re-energized for brief corrective maneuvers, ensuring that the vessel remained on its calculated trajectory. Aboard the Aurora Ascendant, every event was marked by a sense of communal purpose. When the ship's artificial gravity system initiated its big spin, a maneuver where the habitat ring was set into rotation to simulate 1G, a cheer erupted from the command deck. Engineers carefully monitored the spin rate as it reached 2.1 RPM, ensuring that the centrifugal force was just right for human comfort. The steady rotation meant that everyday life was nearly indistinguishable from life on Earth, allowing children to run freely along corridors and adults to work in labs without the disorientation of weightlessness. During this early phase, cultural initiatives flourished. Artists and musicians were given dedicated studios, and digital libraries preserved Earth's cultural heritage. In virtual reality chambers, passengers attended concerts and plays that celebrated both the beauty of the cosmos and the resilience of human spirit. These creative pursuits not only lifted morale but served as constant reminders that, even in the cold vacuum of space, humanity's heart could remain warm and vibrant. As the years passed, the Aurora Ascendant traveled deeper into interstellar space. The spacecraft's journey was punctuated by milestones and recalibrations. Autonomous repair drones routinely maintained the vessel's outer hull, while remote probes sent back detailed scans of the cosmic environment. One fateful moment came during the 25th year of the voyage. A dense cloud of interstellar dust mixed with pockets of ionized gas threatened to erode the ship's surface. The command deck sprang into action. Laser arrays were activated to ionize incoming particles, and rapid adjustments were made to the vessel's course. Thanks to advanced AI-driven systems, the Aurora Ascendant navigated through the cloud with minimal damage, a testament to the resilience of human ingenuity and the meticulous planning that had gone into every phase of the mission. During these mid-journey years, the ship's population had grown to over 3,500. With each passing decade, new generations were born and raised in the glow of distant stars. As children matured into adults, the knowledge of Earth's past was interwoven with the promise of a new future on Kepler 452b. The ship's leadership organized periodic generational councils, where representatives from different age groups discussed everything from resource allocation to cultural traditions. This ensured that every decision was made with the collective welfare of both present and future generations in mind. Scientific research thrived on board. Laboratories conducted experiments in microgravity, studying everything from quantum physics to the behavior of complex ecosystems in closed-loop environments. One groundbreaking study monitored the evolution of beneficial gut bacteria in humans, ensuring that the new generations would thrive even in an environment vastly different from Earth's. Biologists noted that while some bacteria evolved rapidly, their symbiotic roles were preserved through careful monitoring and periodic supplementation from Earth-based seed banks stored in the cargo bay. By the 40th year of the journey, the Aurora Ascendant had long since settled into its cruise phase. The fusion engines were silent, and the vast interior of the habitat ring had become a self-sustaining world. At the heart of the ship, the command deck orchestrated life with precision. Every day was a symphony of calculated maneuvers and spontaneous human creativity. The artificial gravity system, powered by the spinning habitat ring, had become an integral part of daily life. In a grand ceremony commemorating the 40th anniversary of the launch, the spin thrusters were re-engaged for a brief period, an event known as the Great Realignment. Engineers adjusted the rotation rate ever so slightly, fine-tuning the artificial gravity to mimic Earth's natural pull down to the last fraction of a percent. In that moment, every passenger felt the familiar weight of home, a tangible link between the present journey and the distant past of Earth. Inside the habitat, daily routines had taken on a ritualistic quality. Residents woke to the soft chime of synthesized bird calls, a digital recreation of Earth's natural symphony. They then gathered in communal halls, where holographic displays showed the current trajectory toward Kepler 452b and the status of onboard systems. In classrooms, educators engaged students in lessons about the stars, the physics of interstellar travel, and the ethics of colonizing a new world. Virtual reality modules allowed passengers to simulate the terrain and climate of Kepler 452b, igniting dreams of the lush green valleys and deep blue oceans that awaited them. At the same time, the ship's leadership continued to refine policies to maintain balance in the population. Reproduction guidelines had evolved. Every couple was allowed a set number of children, with births carefully timed to ensure a steady, sustainable population. Genetic counselors provided routine evaluations, ensuring that each new generation inherited not only the best of Earth's legacy, but also the resilience required for life in a radically different environment. As the Aurora Ascendant sailed through the interstellar medium, time itself became an ever-changing tapestry. With each passing year, the subtle effects of time dilation began to emerge. Although the vessel traveled at only 5% the speed of light, the cumulative effects of relativistic physics meant that while 50 Earth years passed on board, slightly more time elapsed back on Earth. Periodic updates from Earth were delayed by several months, a reminder of the growing gulf between the old world and the new. Despite the communication lag, messages from Earth continued to pour in, filled with news, art, and even political debates that still echoed from the once beloved blue planet. The ship's elders, those who remembered life on Earth firsthand, shared stories with the younger generations. In quiet evenings spent in the observation dome, a vast curved expanse offering a panoramic view of the cosmos, veterans of Earth recounted memories of bustling cities, quiet countrysides, and the simple joy of a sunset. Their voices, tinged with both nostalgia and hope, became the living history of humanity in transit. These stories were recorded and archived, a digital oral history intended to guide future colonists as they adapted to a new way of life on Kepler 452b. By the 60th year, the Aurora Ascendant had seen dramatic changes in its population dynamics. Birth rates had stabilized, and new scientific breakthroughs had improved onboard healthcare, extending life expectancy and enhancing quality of life. The ship had evolved into a vibrant, intergenerational community where every individual, from newborns to centenarians, played a role in the collective mission. Art, science, and philosophy flourished, intertwining to create a unique culture that was as much about survival as it was about celebrating the human spirit. Aboard the vessel, scientists unveiled a new project, the Gravity Evolution Initiative. With Kepler 452b predicted to have a slightly higher gravitational force than Earth, engineers designed a series of rotational adjustments that would gradually increase the effective gravity on board. Over the next 20 years, the habitat ring's spin rate would be fine-tuned to acclimatize the passengers to the higher gravity they would face on their new world. This gradual evolution was expected to induce subtle physiological changes, a bit denser bone structure, stronger muscles, and even slight alterations in stature, all designed to ease the transition when they finally set foot on Kepler 452b. In the 80th year of the journey, the long-awaited moment arrived. The sensors on the Aurora Ascendant detected the faint yet unmistakable signature of Kepler 452b's atmosphere. Excitement rippled through every corridor of the ship. For decades, the destination had been an abstract dream, a distant dot on a star map, but now, through the enormous viewing ports and holographic displays, the passengers could see hints of swirling cloud formations and a faint greenish hue along the horizon of the alien world. The command deck initiated the deceleration burn. For 18 continuous days, the fusion engines were re-engaged, but this time in reverse. The vessel performed a controlled flip maneuver, aligning the thrusters to oppose its forward motion. As the engines roared, the ship's velocity decreased incrementally. The once steady hum of interstellar travel gave way to a series of calculated thrust pulses, each one a step closer to the gravitational embrace of Kepler 452b. During these days of deceleration, a hushed reverence settled over the Aurora Ascendant. In the communal atriums, families gathered to watch the progress displays. Elders recited ancient Earth proverbs, while children listened in awe to the measured countdown. The ship's navigational team, working alongside sophisticated AI systems, meticulously calculated every change in velocity and trajectory. Their objective was not merely to slow down, but to position the vessel into a stable orbit around Kepler 452b, a celestial waltz that would herald the beginning of humanity's new chapter. When the deceleration phase was complete, the Aurora Ascendant entered a temporary orbit around Kepler 452b. The craft's outer hull, which had weathered the interstellar journey with quiet dignity, now glowed under the light of the distant star. In a grand ceremony that echoed both solemnity and jubilation, the ship's captain addressed the assembled passengers. With measured pride, they announced that humanity had arrived at its new home. The message was clear: from this day forward, Kepler 452b would be known as New Earth. With the vessel in orbit, the next phase of the mission began, establishing a foothold on the surface of Kepler 452b. A fleet of shuttlecraft, stored within the ship's vast cargo bay, was readied for descent. Each shuttle was designed for both precision landing and rapid deployment of critical infrastructure. Robotic rovers and automated construction units had been pre-positioned in the ship's design to facilitate the creation of an orbital habitat that would later serve as the nexus of New Earth. The descent sequence was a marvel of coordinated engineering. As the shuttles separated from the Aurora Ascendant, they used a combination of retro thrusters and aerodynamic surfaces to decelerate within the thin upper layers of Kepler 452b's atmosphere. On board each shuttle, passengers experienced a brief period of weightlessness before the craft's landing gear re-engaged, securing them to the surface. The first landing site was chosen for its moderate climate, abundant water sources, and rich, arable terrain, ideal conditions for building the foundations of a new civilization. For months following the initial landing, teams from the Aurora Ascendant worked around the clock. They erected modular habitats, activated energy grids powered by fusion reactors, and began terraforming efforts designed to harmonize the planet's natural cycles with human needs. Simultaneously, research stations were established to study the local ecosystem. Early data suggested that while Kepler 452b was remarkably Earth-like, subtle differences in its atmospheric composition and gravity would require adaptive measures in architecture, agriculture, and human physiology. Back aboard the orbiting Aurora Ascendant, the command deck continued to monitor every detail. With direct communication links between the orbital vessel and surface installations, real-time data flowed like a river. Engineers adjusted the habitat ring's spin rate one final time, ensuring that the onboard artificial gravity systems would remain compatible with the evolving conditions on New Earth. Even as the shuttles descended, the ship's population prepared for its eventual transition from life in transit to life on solid ground. As the years passed and the first settlements on Kepler 452b began to thrive, the multi-generational nature of the journey came into sharper focus. Those born on the Aurora Ascendant had known only the vessel's controlled environment, a world defined by engineered gravity, recycled air, and the constant hum of interstellar travel. Yet now, with the surface of New Earth within reach, questions of identity and adaptation loomed large. Would the children raised in the artificial glow of the ship be able to flourish in a natural environment? Could human biology adapt to the slightly higher gravity and different spectral light of a distant sun? In response, a comprehensive adaptation initiative was launched. Medical teams working in tandem with geneticists and evolutionary biologists began to monitor physiological changes in the younger generations. Exercise regimens, nutritional protocols, and even modified sleep cycles were instituted to prepare them for the realities of living on Kepler 452b. Special training programs were developed in the ship's virtual reality suites, where simulations of surface conditions allowed participants to experience the tactile sensations of a new, uncharted world. The initiative was not without its challenges. Some individuals found the transition disorienting. The shift from a controlled, spin-generated gravity environment to the nuanced pull of a natural planet required subtle adjustments in muscle memory and balance. Yet the pioneering spirit of the Aurora Ascendant's passengers shone through. Stories circulated of families who celebrated the first fall when the new gravity's effect became unmistakable. A symbolic moment marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. By the 100th year of the voyage, as New Earth's settlements expanded and became self-sustaining, the Aurora Ascendant prepared to complete its final mission phase. A grand farewell ceremony was organized on board the ship. Generations of spaceborne citizens gathered in the central atrium, now decorated with holographic images of Earth's blue oceans, ancient forests, and the familiar constellations that had guided their ancestors. Elders recounted the voyage's long history, while children, with eyes wide in wonder, listened intently to the promise of a future on Kepler 452b. In a symbolic act, the ship's command deck transmitted a final, heartfelt message back to Earth. It spoke of resilience, of the merging of past and future, and of the enduring hope that even as humanity ventured into the cosmos, the spirit of Earth would forever remain alive. This message, encoded in light and carried by the ship's dwindling radio signal, was destined to take years to reach its point of origin. Yet it carried the certainty that a new chapter had begun, a chapter written on the surface of Kepler 452b, a world that would forever be known as New Earth. The story of the Aurora Ascendant and its passengers was more than a tale of advanced technology or interstellar navigation. It was the chronicle of human determination. As shuttles landed, as settlements grew, and as the first families began to cultivate fields and build communities on New Earth, a renaissance took root. The people of Kepler 452b embraced their dual heritage, the memory of Earth, with all its beauty and sorrow, and the promise of a future defined by new beginnings. In the early days of colonization, the settlers erected monuments to honor the journey. Statues of the ship's crew, carved from native stone and set against the backdrop of alien sunsets, reminded all of the sacrifices made for the sake of survival. Schools were established where children learned not only mathematics and literature but also the rich history of interstellar travel, and the wisdom passed down by those who had once soared among the stars. Economic systems were reimagined to suit the needs of a fledgling civilization on an uncharted planet. Energy grids powered by fusion reactors, once confined to the spacecraft, were now adapted to harness Kepler 452b's solar irradiance. Agricultural modules, once part of the ship's life support, were transformed into vast fields where both Earth crops and newly discovered alien flora thrived side by side. The blending of Earth's agricultural heritage with the planet's unique ecosystem promised bountiful harvests, ensuring that hunger would become a relic of the past. Social structures, too, underwent profound changes. The rigid hierarchies of old were replaced by communal decision-making processes that valued every citizen's voice. In public forums, debates were held not merely to determine policies, but to celebrate the diversity of thought and culture that had blossomed during the long journey. Generational councils, once the sole purview of life aboard the Aurora Ascendant, evolved into democratic assemblies that would govern the new civilization for centuries to come. Now, standing on the cusp of a new era, the people of New Earth looked back on their extraordinary journey with a mix of pride and humility. The Aurora Ascendant, once a gleaming testament to human engineering, had fulfilled its mission by delivering its passengers to the doorstep of a new home. Its legacy was not merely in the physical structure that had carried them across the cosmos, but in the resilient, innovative spirit of the community it had nurtured. The final year aboard the ship was marked by ceremonies of both celebration and farewell. With deceleration burns and spin desaturation maneuvers executed to perfection, the vessel gracefully disengaged from its orbit around Kepler 452b. In a final act of technical brilliance, the ship's thrusters realigned to point toward the horizon of the new world, symbolically guiding the hearts of its passengers toward the future that awaited them on solid ground. As the Aurora Ascendant's onboard computer recorded the last moments of interstellar travel, the ship's population, now numbering over 4,500, prepared for the transition from life in transit to life on a planet that promised renewal. In one sweeping moment of unity, the command deck transmitted a final data burst back to Earth, a message of hope, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between past and future. This message, carried on a beam of light that would take years to traverse the void, reminded all who listened that the human story was one of constant evolution and the endless pursuit of a better tomorrow. The arrival of New Earth was not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter in human history. Families disembarked from shuttlecraft onto fertile ground, scientists eagerly established new laboratories to study the planet's unique characteristics, and communities gathered to celebrate the dawn of a civilization that was both rooted in the traditions of old and inspired by the limitless potential of the future. In the years that followed, as the first settlements on Kepler 452b expanded into thriving cities and verdant landscapes, the legacy of the Aurora Ascendant was enshrined in both lore and fact. Monuments, murals, and digital archives preserved the epic journey, a journey defined by every twist of fate, every technical challenge overcome, and every hope kindled in the hearts of those who dared to leave behind the familiar in pursuit of a new world. For humanity, the voyage to Kepler 452b was a bold affirmation of its enduring spirit. In the midst of an ever-changing universe, the passengers of the Aurora Ascendant had proven that no matter how vast the void or how distant the stars, the quest for a new home could unite a scattered people under the banner of hope, progress, and shared destiny. And as New Earth's twin suns rose over rolling alien hills for the very first time, every inhabitant knew that they were not merely survivors of a great exodus, they were the architects of tomorrow. Thus, in the annals of human history, the year 2100 would forever be remembered not as the end of an era, but as the moment when humanity chose to reach for the stars, to embrace a future filled with possibility, and to build a civilization that spanned not only the vast distances of space, but also the infinite potential of the human heart.